to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Secretary, if you could call the attendance roll to get this started.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Here.
Mr. Powers,
Here.
Ms. Berkmeyer.
Here.
Mr. Vinatelli,
Here.
Richards is here, Ms. Knox.
Here.
And Mr. Green.
Here. All right, let's start with our student congress update from Madison. Welcome again.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the Board of Education and Superintendent Jankowski. At today's meeting, we watched a short video about veterans, and then our group came together to write holiday cards of appreciation for the veterans. Mrs. Gonzalez is going to deliver our cards along with Hershey candy bars to the veterans' home on Sugarbush. I have the following building updates to share with you this evening. All schools are currently accepting donations for Christmas for Anchor Bay. Ashley will be collecting new books for ages preschool through 5th grade. Great Oaks is collecting games. Lighthouse is collecting new books for ages 6th through 12th grade. Lottie is collecting hats, mittens, gloves, and socks. McCants is collecting socks. Naldred is collecting games. Middle School North is collecting middle school age gifts. Middle School South is also collecting middle school age gifts. Anchor Bay High School is collecting high school aged gifts. And the Early Childhood Center and McDonald Early Childhood Center are collecting hats, scarves, mittens, and gloves. Lighthouse, Naldred, and Lottie will have a Spirit Week next week. Each day they will have a different theme. Lottie and Naldred are hosting book fairs this week. Great Oaks hosted a book fair last week, and Ashley has a book fair coming soon. At Great Oaks Elementary, last week, there was a Goodies with Graham event, and Popcorn Days will be returning soon. Popcorn Days are a school fundraiser, and students can purchase a bag of popcorn for $1. McCants Elementary held an annual school-wide fundraiser, their Bear Stroll, and it was a huge success. They raised over $9,000. For Halloween, all of the staff dressed up as candy. Their 4th grade teachers dressed up as gumball machines. Popcorn Day is this Friday, and each student will be getting a bag of popcorn. At Ashley Elementary, the students are working on their annual holiday play performance. At Naldred, today was Donuts with Grown-Ups, and they held their annual Butter Braid fundraiser, and delivery will be next week. Middle School North held a dance on November 7th for both their 5th and 6th grade students, and their 5th grade students will be visiting Starbase. At Middle School South, they celebrated Veterans Day yesterday by honoring Coach P with a book of appreciation created by the students. They will be holding Kindness Week next week, and each day is centered around different acts of kindness. At the high school, we are currently celebrating Kindness Week. The Drama Club is putting on a performance of The Diary of Anne Frank Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Saturday will hold the vendor show sponsored by Student Council. DECA will be participating in a power trip next week. And the girls swim team won their MAC Blue Division and are dual meet champs. Thank you. That is all I have for this evening. And I would like to take this opportunity to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you. Thank you, Madison. At this time, moving down for an approval of the agenda, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I will make the motion.
I will second.
Oh. Actually, I would like to amend the agenda.
What would you like to amend, ma'am?
I would like to add to it, Brian, I believe you have the language. You do not have the language.
How about I fill in the blanks?
Thank you.
I would entertain a motion to amend the agenda to add items 4 and 5 under the new business. The first is approval of the superintendent's evaluation. That'd be item number 4. And then superintendent contract would be item number 5, if you're amicable for that, ma'am.
I will make that motion. Thank you.
Mr. Vinatelli, can I still count on your approval for that?
Yes.
All right, so I've got a motion by Ms. Knox, supported by Mr. Vinatelli to add items 4 and 5 under new business. Comments, questions, or concerns?
I do have some questions about the agenda. We're going into closed session for attorney-client privilege.
Yes.
I understand why, and I understand what we're going to be discussing. I guess what I don't understand is there's nothing on the agenda after closed session that suggests that there's going to be any discussion, any deliberation, or any decisions on what's going to happen from that. We have a very important decision as a district to make regarding a very large sum of public money. And even if we decide to do nothing, that's a decision that we're going to have to make. So am I to read this agenda that there's a scenario whereby we go into closed session to have privileged discussions with our legal counsel, and then we emerge from closed session silent on the issue, and the public never hears any deliberation or discussions from this board about what direction the district's going to go on that matter?
So yeah, there are 4 options that
Where?
our attorney's recommending. One of them is to stand silent. If you would like to add an agenda item after the closed session, just for the purposes of discussion, and if there's nothing to discuss, we can not
Well,
discuss.
even deciding to do nothing is still significant, and there's significant discussions that the public should hear on what that means to do nothing. And they should hear why we decided to do nothing and why that's in their best interest to do nothing. I guess I'm just not comfortable making a decision regarding those funds and the public not hearing anything from their board as to why we decided what we decided.
Yeah, if it
Too
helps.
important of an issue.
Go ahead.
One, I will kind of highlight what the issue is in my superintendent's report, kind of talking about that, just because I know some people won't stick around for after the thing. But then basically, whatever the kind of the discussion is with the board, it's whatever action comes out of that or inaction based off of that, then you can still have a discussion on that.
But and maybe this is a procedural misunderstanding on my part. Once we approve this agenda under item 1D, that's our agenda of business for the evening. We can't come out down item 3 and say, hey, let's amend the agenda, can we?
Yes,
We can amend the agenda anytime we want?
yes.
Okay.
It just
well
takes
then-
a stronger vote.
It takes a supermajority, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and you can also comment, let's say the board takes the no action during board comments, you can have your comments as well.
The only other question I have about the closed session is by going into closed session and having these discussions with our legal counsel, does that prohibit us from discussing things back out in open session? So, where I'm going with this is we go into closed sessions, we get our attorney opinion, we talk about the 4 options, we ask our questions, we go through that. If we come back out into open session and Mr. Venditilli says, I make a motion that we go with option X, and then we go to start having discussion, it's not going to be like, whoa, you can't ask those questions. You can't have that discussion in open because we've already had those discussions in closed. I want to be clear before I agree that we're going to go into closed session, that we're not going to be handcuffed on what we can discuss publicly when we come out of closed session. And if we're not allowed to discuss those things in open, then I would not support having a closed session. And I would say we should have all those discussions out in the open.
Well, I'll turn that back over to you, Mr. Jankowski.
No,
I
you-
believe he's correct. We can't
No, you would be able to
discuss the
because
legal opinion.
I'm not looking to discuss the illegal opinion, but if I have an opinion on why the motion on the table is either good or bad, and I had those discussions with our attorney in closed session to make myself comfortable with that, am I through law of what you can do out of closed session, am I no longer allowed to discuss in open session what I discussed in closed session?
I believe technically you're not.
no, not if there's going to be board action and all of that. So if it came out to that, and I mean, you can put something down as board action. There's just, whatever the resolve is, if you wanted to add that now, because of basically there being 4 options, you have a 75% likelihood that there's going to be board action. Okay. Just on face value of that. And you would want to limit it to, this is why we're taking the path that we're taking.
I just want the protection that the 7 of us are going to be
Yeah.
able to come out of closed session and explain to the public
Yeah.
why we either took that money
Yep.
with all the strings attached and accepted
you
those
can do that,
risks,
yeah.
or we decided we don't want the money
Yeah.
and here's how we're going to keep
Yeah.
your students safe. I want the safeguard in place before I agree to
Yeah.
go into closed session, that the 7 of us are going to be able to have
Yeah.
those open and transparent discussions for the public to hear.
You,
So then I would recommend we amend the agenda
Hmm.
and add a bullet point after the closed session for discussion of, well, we can't discuss the closed session per se, but we can discuss our 4 options publicly.
Well, you can actually technically discuss what was in the closed session. It's just that you don't have to. It's because it's legal opinion. I mean, we as a board have a closed session to get the legal opinion of our attorney, and you don't have to do that in open session.
Yeah.
It's an approved reason to be in closed session.
Yeah.
Now, if we as a board chose to then come out and share what that is, you can do that.
Okay.
It's just a matter of, is it respectable amongst everybody, right? To do that. And then can you, it's just a matter of if you want to, right?
As long as
Yeah.
we're clear that when we come out of open session, is at least from my standpoint, it's not going to be, we make a motion to go with option 2 because that's what the attorney recommended. Yes, 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 yes. Let's move on. Like,
Yeah.
the public is going
Yep.
to know why we decided what to do with this controversial issue.
So then I would just recommend at this point that we, as long as we're amending the agenda, if you're open to it, that we would add an item after the closed session for board discussion and or action regarding, what do you want to term this, Superintendent?
I would just say 31A.
I say we be
31A, there-
transparent and call it what it is, a decision on 31
Yeah.
AA funding.
Right, I couldn't remember at
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
So are you okay with amending the agenda and adding that after closed session?
You
Yes.
talking to me or the motion maker?
I got to get it through the motion maker
Yes, I am.
and the supporter.
Yes, I am as well.
Okay. Any other further comments, questions? Madison is like, what is going on? All right, so I'm hearing none, so let's do a roll call vote on moving forward with the agenda as amended.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatelli,
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Richards is yes. Mr. Green,
Yes, motion carries. Moving on to the superintendent's update.
Tim is going to pull up my presentation. As while he does that, we'll go over it again. Just a short piece on where we're at with the bond. We're kind of in a lull right now as we're wrapping up now what is basically all phase 1 at the middle schools. Let's get him going here with the slideshow. There we go. Okay, next slide. Band room has been totally cleared, passed all inspections. It is ready for use at Middle School South, so they can have full access to it and everything. So that is moving forward. As well as we've completed, this was approved 2 board meetings ago to get the concrete sections replaced. We did it at the high school, which I shared before. This is now at Middle School South. So we replaced the approaches and those turn out well. Next slide. So this is going to be before you. This is by popular demand, I would say, at Middle School North. This is a layout of the playground. And so you can see the school is actually would be at the top. So where you can see the current Gaga pit is that octagon that is drawn right there. The students is the number 1 most in demand. I cannot explain to you exactly what Gaga ball is, but there's a long line. And so they would basically, on our estimates, we need like 3 more in order to fulfill the demand. So the thought would be if you were right where they're in the blue octagons, those would be 3 Gaga pits. So you'll have that later, and that would pretty much outfit the playground. We will be looking at, so right now, just so you know, if you were the right side of the screen, that is used for football. The kids have kind of like ascertained that. Then on the other side of the Gaga pits, we will have soccer fields that they could play on. And that will complete basically the playground as is. Any questions on this? Okay, next slide. Just while we're at where we're at with the bond, it's always good to kind of like look at, we are just still at the very beginning of a long process. If you can just click the mouse, Tim. So you can see that red arrow is where we are at now. And it seems like we've done a lot of work so far, but we are not even a third of the way through. So there's a lot more. We are just entering the next phase where it's the largest phase of construction, where we will have construction going on at Ashley, Great Oaks, Naldret, Middle School North, and Middle School South. So that's what we already have things out to bid for Ashley, Naldret, and South. And then right now, just so we can kind of if you're keeping score, out of that 170 million roughly, we've only spent 28 million. And that's 16.5% of overall bond funds. So we've accomplished quite a bit, and we're still in a good spot on that. But now we are entering probably the largest phase of the bond construction. We are still on track, as we mentioned before, that the green bar that you see there, that is for redistricting. The only thing that might kind of change that a little bit is depending on how our enrollment goes, because we've been seeing added enrollment at the elementary level. And we've also been seeing, next slide, Tim. Well, let me touch on this, and then I'll touch on the enrollment question. So this is Great Oaks. We're now starting to look at this. In order to kind of free up 4 classrooms, we're looking to do a bump out of the office and do dedicated science and STEM labs as well. And so that's the next phase that we're going to start planning while we're waiting for the bids to come in on the previous section. And so those will be set to go out to bid as soon as we kind of processed all the bids from the other 3 phases. Next slide. We're also at the point where this kind of goes back to like enrollment. We're going to do another utilization study where we're going to check our math on what our estimate was, because if you recall, if you look at the far right, our goal was to try and hit an average utilization of 84%, which again, the state likes to see 80%. This would put us between 80 and 84%. But now, based off of the numbers, if we're still going to match that, the interesting thing is, based off of the projections that we had when we went into the bond, our enrollment we were supposed to be about 5,200. We are not 5,200. So we just want to check our math and make sure that we're still kind of staying ahead of that. Next slide. And part of that is something that because we've been doing things, we've kind of seen, this is our school of choice enrollment over the last several years. We used to be, the yellow line is the number of students, non-resident students in our district. The blue line is the number of our students going elsewhere. We used to be in a negative where we lost 150 more students than we gained. Part of, as we've been doing things, we are now 125 students to the good. So we're bringing in 125 more students than we are losing in any given year in schools of choice. So we're tracking these 2 trends in order to do that, to make sure that as we're doing this, the nice part, if you look at it, we've kind of, as we structured that whole timeline with the bond, is we know Lottie's out there. So the initial bond was, hey, do we take Lottie offline? There's also the ability that it could just, depending on if these trends continue and enrollment trends continue to be strong, that Lottie could just stay online and we could do that. So we do have the buffer for that. But as we go along, we are going to basically every 2 years just keep checking our math to see if we're on the right thing. The nice thing about the state budget was our estimates on preschool enrollment, early childhood enrollment have been right on there. The estimates that they were going to continue universal lunch have been fairly accurate. So all of that we invested into kitchens and getting those spaces ready will pay off as well. Next slide. So that's it for the bond. Just going into, this is the 31AA that everybody's talking about, because I know not the board may or may not take action depending on what's in closed session, but there's kind of a certain meta level to this where we're talking about things that include privileges such as closed sessions and things like that. So this is, to put it diplomatically, this is what happens when you pass legislation at 4 a.m. Things get put into law that were not necessarily intended. So I just copy this right out of the legislation. So basically, as they've done in previous years, the state has provided mental health and safety funding. The change that they did this year is, one, they're lumping it together. So you get 2 years of funding in 1 year that you're expected to spend over 2 years. But they also added this caveat, which on its face doesn't seem all that troublesome until you start digging into the details. So to receive funding under this section, a district, an intermediate school district, a non-public school, or Michigan Schools for the Deaf and Blind must agree to be subject to a comprehensive investigation, must affirmatively agree to waive any privilege that may otherwise protect information from disclosure in the event of a mass casualty event, and must agree to comply with a comprehensive investigation. On its face, I don't think most people would have issue with it if you take the common understanding of a comprehensive investigation, waive privileges, things like that. It's when you get into the details. So next slide, Tim. So first of all, the definition of mass casualty on this is very broad and not well defined. Because typically, if you were looking at this, so an incident resulting in significant injuries to not fewer than 3 individuals. So that could be, you have 3 kids get hurt in a football game. That's technically could be considered a mass casualty event. An incident resulting in fatalities. So if you had something like that was to happen, that alone would constitute, and these are not ends. These are all like, if any one of these things happen. An incident that exceeds the normal resources for emergency response available in the jurisdiction when the incident takes place. So you may have seen in the news earlier this week, there was a swatting incident at a school at the south end of the county. That alone would qualify to open you up to all of this. And lastly, an incident that results in the sudden and timely surge of injured individuals necessitating emergency services. So those are the 4 things. And it's just, there's none of these are really defined in and of themselves. Next slide. So the next issue is privileges. What does that mean? It is not well defined, but these are just the ones that just so you know, all of the attorneys from all the different law firms have been working on this to try and get understanding. So first of all, you have attorney-client privilege, which most people know that whatever you say to your legal counsel is between you. There's also the work product doctrine. So if they develop something, that could be between you before it's released publicly. Investigator-client privilege. This is not necessarily, this is between, if you have an investigator comes in and they get information, all of that, you would waive that. So then anything that's shared with that investigator is also shared publicly. The closed session protections are Open Meetings Act, confidentiality under FOIA exemptions, because you have exemptions on certain areas, individual notes, things like that. FERPA related protections, we have parents who have signed off that they have certain information they would not like shared with the public on their students. Those, as a district, you would also waive those on behalf of those parents. Same thing with HIPAA, that's medical information. So again, there are things that people don't want out there publicly about their own health. Those would be waived as well. And then and these are just the major ones that come off the top of my head as you kind of like look through this. The other issue is, like, you have issues with insurance carriers and risk management and so on, because when you're handling these things, you have discussions on, okay, what do you cover and how does it go like that? And the main concern is that it's already hard to find insurance companies for public schools. Okay. In fact, the largest insurance company is SETSEG. Basically, that was a company that was created because you couldn't get insurance for schools. So all the all the school districts like kind of banded together to say, let's create an insurance company and we're all part of it. But this could definitely impact it for the amount of money. And for us, our district is $765,000 roughly. It might cost you more just in insurance premiums and all that if you opt into that. So, and part of it is because of the tight timeline they put it on. I know I've shared with you before that generally the way the budget goes in a normal budget year is the budget's approved by roughly July 1st. We get all the details out there. You get your first state aid payment because you don't get a state aid payment until October. Why is that? Because it's your first count day. So you get count day, then they figure out how many students. Count day is really count month, just so everybody knows. It just starts on the fourth Wednesday. It goes through, that gets wrapped up in November. Then in your November state aid payment, they start putting these are called categoricals. And so you'd get those. What's happened in probably, I'd say, for the last 5 years, the categoricals have not been getting out until late. I mean, like the last categorical, I think I shared, it was in 10 days before the end of the school year, we had to pick what our reading program, it had to be from the list. And we had 10 days to do it. And everybody's like, we can't do a pilot. And finally the state relented. But we ended up getting $600,000 because a lot of other districts didn't sign up for that. And so, and then the state finally relented and gave us like some breathing room on that. So now we have until January to make that decision. So they put in there that this has to go out by the end of the calendar year. The problem is when this was put in there, they didn't anticipate the budget not being done until October. So now we have to make a decision. Originally, the first that they put out was tonight was the decision that had to be made to the state. Then they said, no, we'll give you an extension, November 16th. And finally, because they wanted to get on November aid payment. And then finally, after such an uproar, it's November 30th. So we have to make the decision by November 30th. So next slide. So basically that kind of summarizes all of the different decisions that you have to make. As by law, only the Board of Education can waive attorney-client privilege. So that's where there would have to be action if that's the case, if you decide to go that direction. Otherwise, if you don't apply for it, there doesn't necessarily have to be board action on it. But there's some other varying things which you'll see. We'll put it other options that you can look at. So,
Mr. Jankowski, I have
Yes.
a couple of questions about that.
Yes.
Maybe this is something we could wait until we speak with our attorney to get a better picture on, but with regards to FERPA and HIPAA regulations, can we even legally accept this terms? Because it sounds like we, obviously as a district, we have to protect that information. We can't let that get out there. But if we sign this, we agree to these terms, we're basically now legally required to let that information be brought out there too. So it's, like I asked, is it even
no,
possible?
what I'll tell you is basically, and this is after long like briefs from all the major like law firms, is this probably unconstitutional as it's written? Yes. Okay. But until somebody sues and all that, none of that will happen before you have to make the decision. And it'll take basically a situation where this happens and then somebody's going to have to sue and say, wait a second, I don't want my kids' health history to be out there in the public.
Absolutely.
And that's again, that's the offshoot of when they make decisions. Because originally this was not, everybody kept saying this is going to be in the final budget, don't worry about it. And then when it finally got to the vote and it happens at 4 a.m. and then they said, no, there's going to be a supplemental, don't worry about it, we'll fix it. Well, none of that has happened, so here we are.
Right. That's unfortunate. With regards to the insurance that we have, what part of the insurance package? I don't assume this is a general liability issue. This is not a workers' comp issue. It's more like I guess cybersecurity.
I would argue it's a general liability.
It would be general liability. That's
because to us, the thing is there's so many unknowns. So basically what happens is if there's any significant legislation that's passed, Then you wait on case law. Okay. And case law typically in all my law classes basically been, it takes 6 to 8 years for that to play out. And because you don't have that and you have to make a decision before that, who knows how it would play out, because there are scenarios like I gave with the swatting one where that happens. Now let's say there's a swatting thing and somebody gets hurt while, there's this massive response because, they fear that there's an active shooter in a building or something like that. Well, then there's what could be considered a private right of action based off of that it hit some of these things. So therefore, an individual could say, you are not protected by this. You took those funds and this, even though you didn't do it, this is just the result of it. But nobody knows until it actually goes to court.
Okay, so the insurance companies don't know how much the insurance premiums will increase at this point. We're sort of just in this unknown.
It's basically unknown. What I'll tell you is, yesterday they had a long, we went through like the ins and outs of all of that. Is basically what'll probably end up happening is the prediction was they'll end up being 2 pools. Okay. There'll be a high risk pool if they took the funding, because now you don't have all of those protections and you're open to more lawsuits, because now all of that, it's not just shared, anything that's shared. And this is the FOIA privilege. So anything, or the investigator like privilege as well. If you're sharing it with the investigator, it's now anybody can FOIA that and take it out.
Mhm.
So now you're opening yourself up to more outside, basically lawsuits or anything like that. And the other part of it is, this doesn't even touch on, because it's not seen as a privilege, but the whole concept of governmental immunity, because a lot of this comes back from Oxford. That's what is stemming this. But governmental immunity is basically if you are working in good faith in your role as defined, you are immune from prosecution. Basically, people can't sue the state, okay, unless they're allowed to sue. So does that violate that as well? Now, there's exceptions. That gross negligence is the main one, but it has to be like you knew and you didn't react to that. And so that hasn't even, because is that a privilege or is that like a legal right? How do you phrase that? And that's where it's poorly written, so it's not defined.
Understood. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. Jakowski, when we talk about the bond at the high school, is there a certain date yet that, where construction will be over at the high school this year?
So most of it, they're finishing up like the very last things. I know they're tweaking some things, but like over like completely done. No, because we'll go back to the high school and we're going to do a lot of the exteriors and whatever we pick up towards the end of the bond. We'll do parking lots, we'll do athletic fields, we'll do things like that as well.
The interior wise?
Interior wise, unless we add something, for the most part, that's complete. And then they're just wrapping up the last loose ends on the punch list items.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anybody else before we move on?
I just have a quick question about the student count chart you put up there.
Yeah.
It looked like the count of in-district students we have today is really no different than it was 10 years ago. That all of our growth the last 5 years has been fueled by school of choice coming into Anchor Bay. Is that accurate?
No, that the one chart is
It was the blue and the blue.
the blue.
was
That's
pretty-
that's just school choice kids who are either leaving or coming in.
I'm
So-
sorry. I thought
Yeah,
it said
no.
in district. Never
Yeah.
mind then.
Yep.
All for move on?
All right, that takes
Thank
us
you.
to item F. Safe routes to school presentation. Mr. Rathbun, if you would.
Good evening, Board. We're going to present an update tonight on the safe routes to school. This has been a long process, And so we'll talk a little bit about that, but this started all the way back in 2023. So Tim, I'll let you go to the next slide. So the good news is that the grant was approved by MDOT in October. The city of New Baltimore is the agency that was awarded the grant. They are an Act 51 agency, which means they only Act 51 agencies are allowed to receive this grant. So you'll notice that although we're having some projects done in Chesterfield Township, the city of New Baltimore has been awarded the grant. Chesterfield, because they're not an Act 51 agency, could not even apply for those funds. They had to work with the Department of Roads through Macomb County, also an Act 51 agency. The infrastructure grant was awarded a little over $1.8 million. So those are projects that will take place within our district boundaries and be paid for by the grant. So that includes both New Baltimore and Chesterfield Township. There's also a non-infrastructure part of the grant for about $90,000. And what we'll use that for is really to work with our students, our parents, to talk about safe routes to school and implement those and make sure that the community is aware of those. So it's really an outreach program for us to work with our community. Also, we can have bike rodeos and things like that to train children on how to properly ride a bike and safely ride a bike. So we'll be putting that to good use. But I want to be clear about the infrastructure projects. None of the ground will be broken until 2027. So it's going to be a little bit of time, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Tim? So here's kind of giving you a little bit of history on the process. So we started back in the 23-24 school year. And really even a little bit before that, we received a preliminary grant to investigate whether or not this was something we wanted to do. I think it was like $10,000. So we utilized that. We also, as many of you will remember, we conducted surveys of our students and our parents. We had to track students, how they commuted to work at school and how they went home every day for a week or so. We formed a Safe Routes to School committee of stakeholders, which included not only building administration, but parents, teachers, students, local municipalities, the board. There were a number of folks that were involved in that committee. And then we also conducted walking audits of the various schools, all the schools you'll see here tonight. We walked those properties and tried to determine areas where there were opportunities to improve those safe routes to school. So if there was a gap in a sidewalk, or if there was a curb that needed to be repaired and make safe, or a walkway that makes safe, those are really kind of things we were looking to identify. In 24-25, we were working with our committee to kind of identify those projects. There were a number of, probably, I don't know, 50 projects that were identified during our walking audit. So that committee, along with, again, some of the stakeholders from the municipalities, we had conversations, worked on what are our top priorities for the grant. What do we want to use the money for? And so we identified those. There had to be engineering for all of those as a part of the grant application. We also had cost estimates and projected budgets of how much each of those projects would cost. Really, the amount that we were awarded, you get a little bit more, but it's about $300,000 per school. So we had 6 schools between Chesterfield and New Baltimore that were eligible for this grant. And then there was also an agreement that we had to work on to craft to talk about, okay, once all those improvements are done, who's responsible for taking care of those? Who's responsible for maintaining those? And so That particular agreement was hammered out between Chesterfield and the city of New Baltimore. And it basically boils down to if it's within your jurisdiction, you're going to take care of it. That's kind of the long and short of it. And then the grant was submitted to MDOT in 24-25. So that's kind of been our process. Next slide, Tim. And then these will really be our next steps. And after this, I'm going to jump in and show you some of the projects that we're doing. But really now what we need to do is define how we're going to implement. What is going to be our strategy to implement? So the first bullet under the federal funding talks about there's really two distinct processes. And we talked about a little bit, the infrastructure and the non-infrastructure piece. So for the non-infrastructure piece, which is that 90,000 that the school will receive, really we're in the process of talking about what projects we're going to do. And then we will ultimately execute a contract with Michigan Fitness Foundation for that money. We're kind of in the process of that right now. We've submitted a budget and they're in the process of reviewing that budget right now. For the infrastructure project, that's a little bit longer process. That's why we won't break ground until 2027. So basically what has to happen is although the initial application has been approved, the city will have to file the project planning application with MDOT, program department, and development documents necessary to kind of detail out exactly what those projects are going to look like. So that's kind of the next steps for them. And then getting approval on those and then breaking ground in 2027 to implement these projects. Next slide. Next slide. So this is the first project and I'll have Tim kind of try and help me here a little bit. I'm going to start up in the far left corner. So this is, and I'll have to look on here. So this is right outside of Ashley, right across the street from Ashley. So this is the corner of Ashley and basically Schnorr Drive. You can see there. So up in the left-hand corner, you can see 3 white crosswalks that will be implemented there at Schnorr. You can also see white lines that are kind of, I'm going to try and do this, but I don't know if I can shoot that far. You can see white lines here on both sides of Schnorr. So those will be sidewalks that we're putting in. And then also down here on Schnorr, there will be sidewalks. You can see why I wasn't a surgeon. Shaking all over the place here. And then right here across, right here, there will also be a crosswalk at Schnorr and Ashley. And then there is a little bit of concrete right down there, but that will be taken out and they've moved the crosswalk down a little bit east of Schnorr. So that will be kind of some of the things we're doing at Ashley. Next slide. This is just a little bit closer, showing you the sidewalks that are coming in down Schnorr, the crosswalk there, across Schnorr, and then the crosswalk across Ashley. And that will tie right into the Ashley sidewalk that runs adjacent to or parallel to Ashley. Next slide. So this is a little bit further to the west, I would say, of Ashley. So this is at the corner of Ashley and Madison. And so kind of where that purple area is, that would, I believe, be the middle school track and field. And on the other side of the street, the other way, Tim, across to the east, no, down and across, would be Ashley over on Ashley. So this is at Madison, though. This is going to be closer up near that area. They're putting in new crosswalks there as well. Next slide. All right, so this is at the corner of 24 and Ridge on Washington. You can see there that they're going to, at the bottom here, they're going to add some sidewalk. They're going to have a painted yellow reflective paint crosswalk that crosses across Washington. And then they will also have some new sidewalk there on, that runs parallel to Washington. You can also see at the bottom there on 24 Mile, they're going to be adding a crosswalk as well. And it will also have, you can see the signage here included. They'll have signage here and you'll be able to see that. Next slide. This is harder to see. I apologize, but I couldn't really get a good slide for this. You can see all these white spaces here. What they're doing is they're filling in all of the sidewalk gaps. So along Washington, it's all dependent on when your business went in or when your house went in. Early, if it was quite some time ago, you didn't necessarily have to put in a sidewalk. Now, if you put something in, you have to put in the sidewalk. So there are gaps in there. This will fill in everywhere you see these white lines will fill in those gaps so that there will be a complete sidewalk from Ridge Road all the way down to Green Street, actually. Next slide. This is going to be at, gotta make sure I'm at this correctly. What's the location? Oh, okay. So this is right near Lighthouse. This is going to be Bedford, and so they're going to add some sidewalk here, and then a crosswalk at Bedford, and then you can come down here. This will be new sidewalk here, and a new cross across Willie to access Lighthouse. Next slide. This is also in that same area. You can see this is right at Washington and Willie. There's that same crosswalk we just looked at, but they're also here going to add that same reflective yellow paint that they're going to have painted. There will also be flashing beacons at that particular location. And you can see here, they're also adding some sidewalk there at the bottom of the yellow triangle or yellow rectangle. Okay, next slide. This is, what did I say, west of Middle School North. So this is, there is Harrison Street is in the sub there, and you can see, so what we'll be doing is right there, they'll be adding a crosswalk across Harrison and a little bit of sidewalk there, and then tying that into, we have a path that runs across our property all the way to north. So they'll be tying into that pathway and then redoing that pathway so that all of that area that you can see here that runs all the way to Middle School North, that will all get paved. Next slide. This is at near Great Oaks Elementary. So the 24-mile road between Sam Lane and Birch Road. So this is further like as you're going away from the city, I guess. Sam's Lane right now, you can see they're going to be putting in, and it's harder to see on this, I apologize, but right here, they're going to be putting in sidewalk that will run parallel to 24-mile from Sam's Lane, which is a development, all the way down to the Heatherwoods development. So it'll go up to Birch and then beyond. Next slide. You can see here how that, it would be right here. It's tying into this sidewalk that's in front of Heatherwoods here. And then here at Forest Glade, which is the entrance to Heatherwoods, they're going to put in a crosswalk there. You can see they're going to also have the flashing beacons there, crossing signs and so forth. And so that will be right there and tie into the existing sidewalk. Next slide. This is Great Oaks. This would be before you get to Great Oaks, actually. So this is between Seton and Great Oaks on again, adjacent to or parallel to 24 Mile. So it starts right down here at Seton Road, and it will repair a sidewalk. It was put in many years ago. It was just asphalt and it's kind of cracked up. So they're now replacing that whole thing. And then you can see here, it will continue on and then tie into the sidewalk here at Great Oaks. So that will allow safe passage for kids coming from that part of the subdivisions back there. Next slide. So we're now moving on to Middle School South. This is a crossing walk that we'll put in. There will also be a little bit of sidewalk to tie into the existing sidewalk, but this is right at Peggy Lane and Sugarbush. So you can see Peggy Lane here, Sugarbush here, and they're putting in a crosswalk right here. Next slide. This is at Nuldrit Elementary. So this is Sugarbush Road and Remington. So you can see that they're going to add, gotta see here if I can. They're looking to add a crosswalk right here going across. These are existing sidewalks, so there's no new sidewalks there. But they will be adding a crosswalk again with those flashing beacons. Next slide. This is Nuldrit Elementary School, and this is really the parking lot here. This is the main parking lot. They're going to be adding a sidewalk that runs along the back of that parking lot. So the sidewalk will run along Sugarbush and then take a turn and come all the way down and then tie in with our sidewalk right here, so that kids can come right down and then enter towards Nuldrit. Okay, next slide. This is at Lottie Elementary. So there's quite a bit going on in terms of sidewalk here. So you can see they're, first of all, going to put a sidewalk in here that runs across the front of Lottie. They're also going to add at Bayview, or very near Bayview, a crossing walk with the flashing beacons. So those will be there at that location. And then Tim, I think one more slide maybe. Yeah, and then this is another piece of the sidewalk here. You can see that they're going to be adding in there across. And then that will essentially tie into the existing sidewalk here. And then you can see, it's hard to see, but right here, there will be another piece that is tying up into the pavement for Ashley right in front of the school. So that kids will have a safe route there. They don't have to go through the parking lot. They can be on the sidewalk the whole way. Okay, I think that might be it. So those are the projects that they plan on doing. Again, those won't break ground until 2027. I'd be happy to take any questions from the board at this time.
Mr. Rathbun, did the granting agency give any consideration to, I don't know, supplements or anything to fund additional crossing guards that we'll probably be needing, especially at the elementary level?
Yeah.
Or have we thought about how we're going to handle that?
No, unfortunately, that is specifically not a cost that they will cover. So they will do the infrastructure, but won't pay for personnel.
Anyone else?
Todd, couple questions. Is there a reason why we didn't, or maybe we did, but did we do any evaluations on the sidewalk for the high school? And did New Baltimore and Chesterfield participate in this application for this bond at all? Or is this predominantly just a school district bond?
So I'll try and address those in order. The reason the high school and McCants were not included is because they do not sit inside of Chesterfield or New Baltimore. And it would have to go through St. Clair County. They weren't necessarily doing the application, so we didn't have an opportunity. We cannot directly apply for these grant monies. We are not an Act 51 agency, so we have to work through an agency that is chartered under that particular act. So we couldn't do them at at the high school or McCants Elementary. In regards to your second question, Help me again, Dennis. Sorry.
No problem. I was just curious if the city of New Baltimore or Chesterfield had participated in this bond application with us, or is that
Yeah.
something that we've
Yeah.
done solely?
So,
ourselves?
yes, they absolutely have. I mean, it really takes all three agencies, the school, City of New Baltimore, and Chesterfield Township. All of those folks were involved in the planning and the selection of projects. They were a part of our Safe Routes to School committee, and they were intimately involved with the school district in getting this application filed with the state, and they will be essential to affecting the application and then getting all of these improvements that we just shared with you done.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Rathbun, what's the total square footage for this project of sidewalk being put in? Do you have that answer?
I can get that for you. I don't know off the top of my head.
And it looks like you showed a series of maps with ArcGIS property lines overlaid. I'm assuming that this is not anything we'll need approval from residents to put in, but it's sort of like the public road access property.
No, as a part of this process, they did have to contact, in fact, that was a letter that had to be submitted with the application. Anybody who's going to be impacted or potentially impacted by the construction had to be notified of such. And
Okay.
that letter was a part of the application.
Thank you.
Yep.
Todd, can you just explain what the process looks like for who selects the contractors to use and who enters into those agreements?
Yeah, so it'll be likely Chesterfield and New Baltimore that are entering into those agreements. The school will not be a part of
We
those
will not be a
agree-
party to any of those contracts?
What's that?
We will not be a party to any of those contracts?
We will not.
Okay.
And in terms of, I would imagine they have to follow a similar bidding process, just like we do, as they're using public monies to fund, grant monies that I imagine will have to be bid.
And then the only other question I have is, I'm assuming there's no ability through this grant for a municipality to recover funds that they spent previously on sidewalks that they probably should not have, if you know where I'm going with that?
I think maybe I do. No, these would all have to be new projects.
Okay.
There's no ability to go back and recover for projects that were
Okay.
done prior to the application.
Thank you.
Yep.
So the only comment I have, Todd, is thanks for spearheading this. And despite how you just described how the other municipalities and everybody were involved, they were, but I was at a couple of the walks and certainly you were spearheading the project in terms of organization and working directly. I think the two that I attended, the grant awarder, if that's such a word, from the state of Michigan was there and you guys worked really well together. So I know it took a lot of effort, and a lot of your time and a lot of coordination because you did have to work with the other two municipalities. I appreciate it. I think it's going to make a big difference in if our kids decide that they want to walk or ride a bike to school, that they can get there safely.
Thank you. Yep. It was a team effort, no doubt. There was a lot of time and effort put into this, but I think it's going to be very beneficial for our students.
And probably Corey too. I need to thank her. I'm guessing.
Yeah, she was
She
definitely
probably got
involved.
far more
Corey
phone
was
calls than
definitely
she wanted
involved.
about the
Yes.
sidewalk process. So.
Yes.
All right.
All right.
Any other questions? Anyone else? All right. Hearing none, we're going to move on our agenda to item G, hearing of the public. Those who wish to address the board on agenda items must complete a brief request stating their name, address, and the subject of their comments. Remarks about specific employees should be directed to them personally and not included in the public forum. Administration will follow up with concerns within 48 hours of the board meeting. Participants will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. So I have Richard M.
There we go. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Rich Malik, and I'm here to talk about the Health Education Standards Framework that will be voted on tomorrow. So I quote, their vision is, the goal is to develop an individual who is health literate, unquote. Literacy allows communication via a set of universally accepted rules. In language, those are phonetics and dictate spoken sounds. In health, the scientific method is used to gather objective evidence and to support or oppose a hypothesis. Neither of these are based on subjective inputs such as feelings, which according to Webster's dictionary is what gender identity relies on to define oneself. PubMed asserts that 99% of the world's population has either XX chromosomes, genetically female, or XY, genetically male. The others have a wide spectrum mix of both and are intersex. Encouraging the majority to believe they can change their sex is not a form of literacy. It favors subjective testimony over objective evidence. Guiding Principle 7 on page 8 says, quote, health education programs develop students' skills for critical thinking and decision-making, unquote. Sex health objective 2 on page 53 of the framework calls for a student to locate and support policies about genderism. Critical thinking requires open outcomes. You evaluate evidence, consider perspectives, and form a conclusion. If the end goal is already fixed at supporting policies, then the process isn't truly critical. Rather, it guides a student towards a specific stance. This is a hallmark of indoctrination, not education. Children's freedom to reject or critique the policies of genderism are constrained. Even if you support teaching it, you should reject the framework because it reduces parental transparency. The state of Michigan Department of Education confirmed they will follow the Massachusetts whole child model. This embeds gender ideology and social activism into all subjects. The ability to opt out of sex ed becomes an illusion of choice, like when I offer my daughter an apple, whole or sliced. Either way, she's still getting the apple, and children will still get gender ideology. Since a byproduct of this framework is reduced transparency for parents and increased institutional control of curriculum, a right-leaning office would have the same ability to embed Jesus, creationism, and other principles that the extreme left typically rejects into the curriculum. Remember, 2026 is an election year, and the implications of this proposal could come back to surprise those who drafted them.
I need you to wrap it up, sir.
Okay, this is the conclusion. This framework does not belong in schools. It encourages health illiteracy, more closely resembles indoctrination, reduces parental transparency, all while allowing the state greater control of what is taught to children. And then I just have 2 questions. So on November 1st, I filed a FOIA request, and I understand they get 5 business days to get responded to and can be extended to 10 days. In addition to the 5, I haven't heard anything back on that, so I would like to follow up on that. And then the second question was, sorry about that. If anyone's aware of funding that is attached to this framework, because I know that if it passes, which I expect it to, that it's up to the district to implement or not. So my question is there funding attached to that we would get or not get based on its adoption?
I will defer to our superintendent to get back to you within 48 hours on both of your questions.
Okay, and then the last one is if, whether it's adopted or not, what would be the strategy with having parents involved and anything like that? What would the process be? So, thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Okay, Richard, just one quick question. Can you please clarify funding tied to what exactly? You mentioned that there's a vote with regards to, I think you said health occupation program.
Yeah, so it's the Michigan Health Education Standards Framework. It's being voted on tomorrow at the state in Lansing.
Okay.
And if it passes, it's up to each district to implement the framework or not. And so my question is, if the district decides not to implement it, would they not get funding that's tied to the proposal?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item H, consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are of a recurring nature and are voted on as a single item. Any board member may request an item be removed without a vote of the board and will be discussed and voted upon individually. So with that, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, including minutes from October 22nd, 2025, as well as the personnel report.
I will make the motion.
I'll support.
Motion by Ms. Knox, supported by Mr. Powers. Comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing
We-
none. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lisa.
I just had a question on the HR report. There appear to be like two positions, two staff members. Are they like switching positions?
Are you talking about the instructional coach and all that?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
All set? Anyone else? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, could you call the roll?
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatelli,
Yes.
Richards, yes, Mr. Green,
Yes. Motion carries. On the new business or amended new business. Excuse me, item number 1 is a summer tax resolution. Each year, the board considers an ongoing resolution requesting that each city and or township collect the summer tax levy. This will continue from year to year until specifically revoked by the board. Business office is recommending approval of the attached resolution, which provides for collection of 50% of the operating millage, 9 mills, and 1/2 of the operating debt retirement millage, 5 mills, for the fiscal year 2025-2026 to be collected in the summer of 2026. Administration is recommending the Board of Education approve the summer tax collection resolution for the fiscal year 25-26 to be collected in the summer of 2026. I would entertain a motion to that effect if somebody is so moved.
I'll make the motion.
I will second.
Motion by Mr. Powers, supported by Ms. Knox. Comments, questions, or concerns? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Hang on, question for you.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Jankowski, thank you, Ms. Powers. I think when we last spoke about debt millage, we said 10 was a little bit high at that point. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, but this is, this is operating. This is different.
This is different.
Yeah, so this is the 9 homestead, 18 mills that are on non-homestead properties. So you could do 18 all at once, but we split it into both the summer and the winter. So you're not getting hit by all 18. You're getting 9 and then 9.
Okay, it looks like you have, what we have for
And
50%.
same thing. Yeah, same thing with the debt. Yeah. So
50% operating budget and then 50.
yeah, so instead of everybody getting it all on one and having to pay it all at once, we split them over the 2.
No, I understand that. I understand that point, but we're not just voting on the operating millage. We're also voting on the debt retirement millage as well.
Yeah, you're basically, you're just voting on how do we collect that.
Right. And so I think when we spoke before, we kind of had a little bit of a question about if the debt retirement millage was higher than other areas.
Yeah, yes, the debt is higher than I would say the average district. Yes.
Okay.
Typically it's, 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there. We're at 10.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I'm fine approving that for this go around, but I think as we continue to put ourselves in a good financial position, I think it's worthwhile to explore if we can start chipping down at the debt retirement millage and see how we could responsibly do that.
I think Mr. Vinatelli, I think we may have spoke about that at finance. I'm not sure if we've spoken about it openly in a public meeting, but yes, we did have that conversation. Yep. So I'm actually, any other questions? I'm gonna have you call the roll on this one, sir.
sure. Mr. Powers.
Yes.
Ms. Knox.
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger.
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer.
Yes.
Mr. Vinatelli.
Yes.
Richards, yes. Mr. Green.
Yes. Motion carries. Item number 2 is a field trip for our wrestling team to attend a tournament in Petoskey. The tournament will be held January 2nd through 4th, 2026. The team will travel with 3 chaperones and 25 students via school bus. The recommended action is that the Board of Education approve the wrestling team tournament field trip on January 2nd through 4th, 2026. Again, the team will be traveling to Petoskey, Michigan, via Anchor Bay school bus. I would entertain a motion to that effect.
I will make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Knox, supported by Mr. Vinatelli. Discussion?
I do have one request. Can we make sure, and I have nothing against the wrestling team, but can we make sure that the students and parents read the athletic code of conduct?
Prior to the going on the trip,
Prior to going on the trip, yes.
would you like to make that part of their motion?
Well, I will do it. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Do we want to make that part of the motion?
I trust Phil.
Okay. We will. Any other comments or questions? Aside from that is a long ride on a yellow school bus.
It is.
Can we mandate Petoskey stones?
Oh,
It seems like a bribe, but I don't know if we could put that into the motion. We could make strong recommendations.
but if some were to show up on our desk.
That'd be okay. You know, school board appreciation's coming up.
Sure.
All right, anybody else? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Next on our list is our change order. Pursuant to Superintendent Jankowski's presentation, the Anchor Bay School District has received a quote for 3 additional Gaga ball pits for the playground at Middle School North. The purchase is funded through the Sinclair Recreations contingency. It is the recommendation to award 3 additional Gaga ball pits to Sinclair Recreation in the amount of $34,037. The recommended action is to approve the purchase of additional Gaga ball pits to Sinclair Recreation as stated in the amount of $34,037. I would entertain a motion to that effect.
I will make the motion.
I will second.
Motion by Ms. Knox, supported by Mr. Vendatelli. Comments, questions, or concerns?
I had a question.
Yes.
I fully support the Gaga ball pits. Just reading through the cost summary, and from what I remember when I visited North, so do the walls just kind of sit on top of the flooring that they put down, or do they adhere it, or?
No, so there's stanchions that go into the ground. And so they go in, they're mounted into the ground. There's I don't know, it's like a black rubber like flooring that goes in above the mulch, and then those go in, and then the wall goes into that. And then there's safety capping that goes on top of it.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I have a question on the quote under the comments section. There's some various kind of exclusions. Does not include any bonding, does not include drainage stone, does not include subbase, installed on existing grade, does not include excavation, does not include site restoration or landscaping. Is any of that significant in terms of potential surprises like we had, at the,
No,
the asphalt
Yep.
we just did at the last meeting where, oh, by the way, the subbase is not strong enough, and now we're having another.
No,
change order.
it's since it's at grade, they won't have to. Adapt.
And then, if you go to the website that sells the floor, the installation is stated, where did it go? The manufacturer explicitly recommends installation on a property prepared and leveled for subbase, not directly on grass or soil. Not only that, but we're about 30% higher than the MSRP on that website. So they're hitting us for an extra $700 per floor. And that's where I stopped investigating.
That was, one of my questions was, is this quote, equivalent to the, Gaga pit that we already had installed?
Yeah, this is actually the same company that did that. So they bid that
Same
as part
company,
of it.
same
So
quote.
basically they're,
Right.
this was, yeah, exactly.
Brian, were you all set?
No, I just had one more question. Can you just kind of explain like kind of what the impetus is for expanding this and creating, like, why are we doing this?
Basically, we did our best. We surveyed students on this is what they want. So we put things in there, and then we were looking at where are kids not participating, or where is there a traffic jam, I guess, for lack of a better term. And it's the Gaga pit that we have like the lineup at. And so more students can get engaged in doing things, because that's where right now, that's where most students want to participate.
So based on our observations of what enhances the experience of our fifth and sixth
Yeah.
graders at Middle School North, we're reacting to that and expanding this particular activity to allow more of them to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So we're responding to what kind of what our students are telling us they want more of.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, after I investigated price and was a little irritated by that, it hit me that we have our own CT program, that there's 5 or 6 standards that are met if we have our kids install these Gaga pits at the elementary school. Not only that, but you get credit for volunteering. And I don't know why we wouldn't pull this in-house and give it to our kids. It would be a great kind of learning experience and lesson.
Well, to jump on that, that was kind of the impetus for my question. Because when I looked on the website, just doing a quick Google search, the Gaga pits themselves were pretty formidable to what you just found, like Google searching if you wanted to buy one on your own. Same, but to me, it was the installation, and it appeared like, to what Mr. Power said, when you say, we're just putting it on existing grade, we're not putting a sub base, we're not excavating, we're not landscaping or restoring the site. And I was like, well, what are we doing? Are we just assembling the thing and setting it on top of this flooring for $10,000? Because that sounded insane. But I know that that's the way sometimes things go when you're buying commercial stuff. So I mean, I support that too. I don't know if it's too late or you can't like separate that or say we don't need installation, but to your point, it sounds like there is something that has to go into the ground or be secured. So I don't know if it's
Yeah, the only
but
no, I'll tell you the reason that we go with companies is basically it's insurance liability. I mean that they do it, so therefore it's covered. If one of our students was to do it and something was to happen, then we carry that liability, because it needs to pass, it needs to be inspected, and we get our playgrounds inspected every year. So that's the main reason that you go with them.
So that leads me to actually 2 points. One, I don't know if there's a warranty on this, so it might void the warranty if we did the installation. But second, we're talking about building houses with students. So if we're concerned about having our students build a Gaga pit, how are we going to build houses?
Well, those you get inspected, then you will also carry insurance on all of that. There's a reason that you have companies that put it in. We don't like playground equipment. We don't get it and then have our students assemble it, because if something goes wrong, you're just covered.
Well, you wouldn't have your elementary students assemble it, but I think a class full of high school students that are going through a CTE program to actually do that for the rest of their life might be capable to do that.
I don't necessarily disagree on whether they can, but again, you could save 10,000 and lose much more later on if there's an issue with that.
You mentioned if we have students building houses, they get that inspected, that's covered by insurance and all that. How is the process different than if we have them build Gaga pits and then it's inspected by a third party?
Because there isn't really anything that kind of signs off necessarily on that. I mean, there's not like, we don't have a building inspector that's going to come out and do that. It's like you have a company that this is what they do. And so therefore they cover all of that. And so then they carry the liability. If there's something, we can go back to them and say, hey, this is what happened. This is the thing. There's a defect in what you did. You know, let's just say they didn't put a screw in that was supposed to be in there. If it's us, and I would argue that the chance of that happening if you were to have students do that, especially if it's the first time they've ever done it, goes up considerably. And then that's it. We do have, and we do inspections. We bring out a certified company to inspect all of our playground equipment and all of that each year as we go through that. Like with the house building, they'll work alongside contractors. They'll work, so you'll have a licensed electrician that'll be there. You'll have licensed people that will be doing that. And we can see if they're open to our kids working with them. I don't know if I would, I mean, I can tell you, I would not recommend to have our students just do it entirely on their own. Again, you could save $10,000, but at what potential liability?
All right, any other comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, sir, could you call a roll call for the spending?
I can do that. Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
No.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Richards, yes, Mr. Green,
No. Motion passes. All right, moving on to item number 4. That is the superintendent evaluation. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the superintendent evaluation as it has been presented to you tonight.
I will make the motion.
bless you.
Motion by Ms. Knox. Do I have a support?
I will second.
Support by Mr. Powers. Comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, could you call the roll, sir?
I can do that. Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
Mr. Richards is a yes, Mr. Green,
Yes. Motion carries. Item number 5 on our new business agenda, since we just approved his evaluation, is to discuss an extension of 1 year onto his contract. And the reason for the extension of 1 year onto his contract is the rating of effective. And I want to remind everybody that the rating of effective is the highest achievable rating according to the superintendent evaluation instrument. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to extend Superintendent Jankowski's contract an additional year from where it currently sits.
I'll make that motion.
I will second.
Motion by Mr. Vendatelli, supported by Ms. Knox. Comments, questions, or concerns? Any discussion?
I would just like to thank Mr. Jankowski, and I can't remember the gentleman's name. He
Rodney
forgot-
Green.
Thank you. He forgot all of our names.
Fair enough. If you're out there, Rod. Sorry, bud.
I just want to thank, both for putting their time and effort and helping us along the evaluation. Mr. Jankowski, thank you for putting together your proposal to us with, with evidence and things like that. So I know it takes a lot of time, so thank you.
Anyone else?
Just to reiterate what you already said, Patrick, is that the highest rating superintendent can receive is effective, which is there's 1, 2, and 3. And so Mr. Jankowski did receive effective. It's different than in years past where there was a highly effective. The tool has been retooled and no longer includes 4 as an option. So just
And
to make that clear.
Just to add on to that, that was a retooling and a change that was completed by the state, not by, Anchor Bay specifically. We're just following and complying with what's been provided as the instrument for the review. Anyone else? I would echo Mr. Richard's thoughts. I think things have gotten substantially better over the last few years. I think that the bond work is challenging, but I think you're probably finding it pretty rewarding to watch doors open and watch students have other opportunities that we may not have otherwise had if the taxpayers didn't support that bond. And that work is ongoing, including 3 new Gaga pits that are going in, apparently, whatever Gaga pit is. Anybody, anything else? We're gonna do a roll call vote if you would be so kind, sir.
Sure. Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Richards, yes, Mr. Green.
Yes. Motion carries. Congratulations. Thank you. Got you for another year. That's right. Next up is our closed session, attorney-client privilege. The Board of Education moves to closed session to review opinion from legal counsel pursuant, it's been a long day, to 81H of the Open Meetings Act, MCL 15.2681H. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to move into closed session for that purpose.
I will make that motion.
I have a motion. Sounds like I may not have a support.
I'll support it.
All right, motion by Ms. Knox, supported by Mr. Richards. Comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, sir, I will move to a roll call vote if you would.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Richards, yes, Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
and Mr. Green.
Yes. Motion carries. We will move into closed session at 8:53 PM.
That again, we weren't live.
Sure. I would entertain a motion to go back into open session at now 9:39 PM.
Still 9:38.
So moved.
Second.
Comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, roll call vote if you would, sir.
Ms. Knox.
Yes.
Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Powers.
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer. Richards, yes, Mr. Green.
Yes. Motion carries. Moving on our agenda, I am going to read into the record a 31 AA resolution. And then I will solicit a motion to confirm or deny the resolution. Whereas the Michigan Legislature has amended Section 31 AA of the School Aid Act, MCL 388.1631 AA, to appropriate funds for school safety and mental health initiatives, and whereas the amendments to Section 31 AA condition the application for and receipt of such funds on a public school district's agreement to, 1, be subject to a comprehensive investigation initiated by the governor in the event of a mass casualty event. 2, affirmatively waive any privilege, including attorney-client privilege, that may otherwise protect information from disclosure during such an investigation. And 3, comply fully with the comprehensive investigation. And whereas the Board of Education recognizes that attorney-client privilege is a fundamental legal protection that ensures confidential communications between the board and its legal counsel, and that waiving such privilege could expose the district to greater liability, including higher insurance costs, frivolous lawsuits, potentially impacting legal strategy, governance, and risk management. And whereas the definition of a mass casualty event under the statute is vague and poorly defined, and could subject the district to frequent and intrusive investigations. And whereas the legislation has no time limit on the waiver of district privileges, nor is providing clarification on whether such language is retroactive. And whereas the board has carefully considered the legal opinion provided by counsel, the potential implications of waiving attorney-client privilege, and the associated risks to the district's governance and operations. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of Anchor Bay School District hereby declines to apply for or accept funds under Section 31 AA of the State School Aid Act for the 2025-2026 school year due to the statutory requirement to waive all privileges and the potential adverse consequences of such waiver. And be it further resolved, the superintendent is directed to communicate this decision to the Michigan Department of Education, any other relevant authorities, and to ensure that the district continues to pursue alternative funding sources and strategies to support school safety and mental health initiatives without compromising legal protections.
I'll make a motion to adopt that resolution.
I will second.
Motion by Mr. Powers, supported by Ms. Knox. Comments, questions, concerns, discussion?
I have comments. I want to start out by making sure that the public is aware that by opting out of this and not accepting these funds will not impact our ability as a district to fund school security. We will not spend one dime less on the security operations of our district by not taking this money. So that will continue as it's been. I want to state my personal reasons for why I think we're making the right decision by opting out here. My main two are first and foremost the precedent that it sets. I think the state of Michigan is going to be watching very carefully to see how many school districts line up and just willingly give up their rights in exchange for funding. And if a majority of districts take these ill-gotten funds, this will not be the last time that school districts are faced with making decisions in terms of giving up rights or giving up things that are in their best interest in exchange for money. It'll become more and more that the government will isolate funding into categories and attach strings like this to it. And it's completely inappropriate. And it shows just how unserious our state is about funding education and funding public schools, that they would take something as serious as school security and put districts like us in this position to have to make a decision like this. My second main objection to this is I feel this is an attempt to erode the governmental immunity that a public school district and more importantly, our teachers, our staff, and everybody that works in this school district enjoy. And by opting into this and giving up all of our rights, we would essentially be giving away potentially a playbook to allow for somebody to come in and strip away our employees' rights and protections if, God forbid, something did happen. So I think we just need to be very mindful of that this is absolutely a litmus test by our government to see if school districts will essentially do anything for money. Today it's security funding, but tomorrow it's going to be something else, and the next year it's going to be something else. And we just need to be very mindful of the precedent that it sets. You know, there's a famous quote attributed to George Bernard Shaw where he approaches a lady and says, you know, "Madam, would you sleep with me for 1,000 pounds?" And she says, 1,000 pounds? Why, yes, of course I would. And then he turns to her and says, "How about 10 pounds, madam? Would you sleep with me for 10 pounds? And she says, "Well, of course not. What kind of a woman do you think I am?" And he says, "Well, we've already established that. We're just negotiating price at this point." So it's a crude example. I understand that, but it's meant to point out that once you decide you'll do anything for a price, that's who you are, and that's how you're going to be treated. And so we just need to be very, very mindful of that. And I think we're making the right decision here tonight.
Part of what our discussion was the funds that were tied to this can't even be used for our private security. It could only be used to fund SROs, among other things. So for us, we've been budgeting wisely. Our assistant superintendent and superintendent have been very conservative with the funds that we had from previous grants for security so that we are able to carry on our Fortis guards. And yeah, giving up attorney-client privilege, basically waiving the rights of not only our teachers, but our students and anyone involved in any event. And like the resolution says, the language is very loose, very vague, and we don't think this is in the best, especially for our school security grant. It's not in the best interest of keeping our students and staff secure nor safe.
Anyone else? Comments, questions, or concerns?
Mr. Green, I do have a couple of comments I'd like to share as well. I do like to echo a lot of what Mr. Powers has said. He basically took a lot of what I was going to iterate. And I'd also like to add on, Anchor Bay does take school security very seriously. In a lot of ways, this district has pioneered what school security looks like, how to harden, how to cooperate with the local municipal police stations, how to organize your system. And I think that there's a lot of districts that could be using these funds in a productive way to start emulating a lot of things that we're doing and also certain actions that they could take as well. And I think it's shameful that the state is using this as a tactic to make school districts waive away their protected rights, because unfortunately, that would actually do more harm than good, and that it's unavailable to those who are unwilling to take these actions and do things that are reasonably what any reasonable district would reject, when otherwise those funds paid by taxpayers, not given by the governor, given by the taxpayers of the state, should be used for continuing to harden our schools to protect students from malicious harm. And so I think it's unfortunate that we're even here in the first place. I intend to vote for this resolution to deny this application. And it's unfortunate that we should have to do this.
Anyone else? So as someone who has sat on as the vice chair of the School Safety and Mental Health Commission for the state of Michigan, I'm quite frankly appalled. We create commissions and struggle to get those commissions funded. And then we are really given a choice to continue to protect the safety and welfare of our students, or waive privilege. And privilege is a big deal to me. I don't like the thought of waiving that. And it's not only waiving, I guess, my own privilege and the board's privilege. I'm now waiving the superintendent's privilege. I'm waiving my student's privilege. And that brings into FERPA, which is, protection rights of a student in terms of school. And HIPAA is also on the table, which, to be quite frank with you, I don't know how I can waive anyone else's rights. I can make a decision for the board. That's what we do. We make decisions for the district. But how the hell do I get to waive a parent's rights or someone who's not an employee of this district? So I would agree with Mr. Powers. It's just a complete abuse. And like I said, I'm shocked and appalled that, to Mr. Vanatelli's point, that we're actually having this discussion. I could see where there could be a positive angle, but for me, they're all just kind of negative. I'm taking away everybody's rights and I'm hurting, the people that I want to protect. And now I don't have the money to protect them any further. I do, because to your point, we just signed an extension for our school safety officers. We added a full-time SRO in New Baltimore at our dime versus the part-time. So I will reiterate, as long as I'm sitting here on this board, to Mr. Powers' point, we're not cutting our security. We need to find a way to keep our students safe. And I think we do a great job of that. The tough part is that some of this money could have been used for mental health resources instead of the state focusing on, the outrageous ratio of students who actually have suicide ideations. And it's a large like alarming percentage of high school students who have considered harming themselves. We're here arguing about privilege when you should be funding these students and taking care of my students with my money. It is my money. It's your money. It's my money. It's crazy that we're having this continued debate. So that's my 2 cents. Anybody, anything else before we move on the motion, the resolution? So, sir, if you could call the roll, I would appreciate it.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer, Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
Mr. Richards is yes. Mr. Green,
Yes. Motion unanimously passes. I thank my fellow board members for their vote. All right, moving on. Let's start with points of pride. We're going to start with Mr. Richards.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Give me a
You guys are all
second.
tired of listening to me talk anyway, so.
We know that. This one's kind of short since we just had a meeting a couple weeks ago. Anchor Bay is hiring a multi-trades helper. Come join our maintenance team that supports a variety of building repair and maintenance projects across the district. The Anchor Bay Performing Arts Center production of The Diary of Anne Frank will be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 7 p.m. at the high school. Tickets are sold at the door. Congratulations to Middle School North Captain of the Month, Dan Quinn. Dan truly goes above and beyond to keep Middle School North safe. He works hard to build strong, positive relationships with students. The Career Pathways Open House and Skilled Trades Fair is January 29th at the high school. All 17 CTE programs will be open for tours, as well as local career employers, colleges, trade school representatives will all be here at the high school. I'd like to thank the Transportation Department for attending the New Baltimore Trunk or Treat. They also ended up taking first place in the Spirit Award. Good job. I'd like to thank the Anchor Bay Band Boosters Club for the invite to their auction dinner. I'm sure they were glad I attended. I spent a couple dollars. Thanks to Mr. McKenzie, Ms. Kenward, Mr. Holson, and Mr. McDonald and Mr. Sunnyberg for attending. I had a couple laughs at our table. Phil didn't attend. Your wife wasn't there, so I couldn't really help gamble things away this year. So maybe next year. I was able to visit Middle School South. I want to thank Mr. Latona and the staff for proudly showing me some of their bond updates, the new band room. Ms. Sheridan showed me around her room as well. Very excited on some updates. I want to thank them. I was also able to stop by the high school today. Mr. Yono was there. He showed me around the updates of the school of this new store / coffee shop. He's very excited for that. It was great to see the student involvement as well. They filled out the permits. They know the punishing part of dealing with different applications for different things. And I thought it was pretty cool to see them kind of in real life scenarios on the project as well. And I had one more that I heard from the student update. I want to congratulate the girls swim team on their championship as well.
Very good.
That's all I got.
Ms. Burkmeyer. Ms. Knox?
I guess my point of pride is really just the board tonight. Tonight we got to do all the things that we're supposed to do and feel very accomplished this evening. We did our superintendent evaluation. That's our main job, is to oversee the superintendent. We got to protect the privileges of our students, staff, and families, and we got Gaga ball for the kids, so it was kind of fun tonight. We got to kind of do all the things that we're meant to do, and not so much of the kind of mundane stuff. So that was pretty cool. So I think I'm really proud of us as a board, and it was more lighthearted than last time.
Yeah, true enough. And it sounds like Ms. Knox is fishing for an invite to the Gaga Ball Chris opening or whatever we're going to do there. So
Dodgeball. We can have a Gaga ball league.
Mr. Vinatelli.
No points of pride today, more of a comment, questions. With regards to the individual came up, Richard M. He spoke about a health occupation program. I tried to write down the name as quickly as he said it, but my hand does not move that fast. But he said,
Yeah, it's health standards. It's a new health standards.
okay. I do have a number of questions about that. Not tonight. I know there's a lot of
Okay.
implications with regards to that. And
Yeah.
we spoke earlier today about Mahood v. Taylor. And I'm curious to know a little bit more about perhaps how that will kind of fit in with the framework that we're supposed to implement, if what the individual is saying is correct. And so I think, if when you respond to him within the 48-hour
Absolutely.
time frame, if you wouldn't mind, please CCing me on that email.
Okay.
And then we can have further discussion, seeing how we're going to.
Yeah, we'll see what action the state takes as well, and then it'll be after whatever we get from them.
Okay.
Mr. Powers?
Yeah, so I guess for starters, in case anybody did not like the George Bernard Shaw quote, I do have a more wholesome quote from Benjamin Franklin, that people who
It's not even 10 o'clock yet and I thought.
people who give up their liberty for security deserve neither liberty nor security. So if you didn't like the George Bernard Shaw quote, you can refer back to the Benjamin Franklin one. Veterans Day was this week. Just want to take an opportunity, with our proximity to Selfridge and all the defense industry corporations we have in the area. We have a ton of veterans here within the footprint of our district. So just want to take an opportunity to thank them for everything they do and everything that they allow us to do, not only as a board, but as a society. Could never do that without the sacrifices that they make. Thanksgiving is coming up, which means we're somehow at the end already of our first trimester. So we're a third of the way there. And just wanted to recognize the students and the staff that made it through a lot of changes. so far this year and keep plugging away and keep working hard. And thank you for everything that you've done to get us here this far in the year.
Mr. Sennenberg?
I don't have anything prepared. Thank you.
All right. I guess my point of pride is probably going to involve the Shoreliner. If you follow them on social media, there is an opportunity. I think tomorrow and Friday are the last 2 days to come in sometime between maybe 10:30 and 1 and have a Thanksgiving turkey dinner at lunch. I think it's $15 a head. I think it's buffet, which is good for us guys that like a little more than the normal person. But welcome to, you can go online, you can sign up for a reservation. There is reservations just so they can keep the flow going and, make sure they've got enough food prepared. So I will be there tomorrow, hopefully, if things go well, for lunch. And would love to see any of you guys there that are interested in enjoying myself, maybe around 12:30-ish. I think that's it. As far as committees, I know finance met last week.
Just find it.
We covered a lot of that ground today, especially with the presentations and then Mr. Rathbun's presentation of the safe school route, whatever the title was. Apologize, late, don't remember. So I think that's all I've got. If anybody has anything else, I'll open it up one more time around. If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I thought you guys want to stay here a little longer. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any comments, questions, or concerns?
Do we have to, is there a legislative update in between points of pride and closing?
Did I
the
miss
meeting?
something?
No,
Oh.
we haven't put it in there because nothing has passed. So
Okay.
we'll add it as soon as there's something that there
Soon as there's
literally
news.
nothing has come out of the legislature. So
Gotcha.
Anybody else? Anything else? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Meeting adjourned at 9.